He told me to take the fence down. Not asked, told. Brenda Vance, president of the Stonebridge Ranch Architectural Committee, standing on my driveway in a visor at 8 in the morning, holding a laminated letter like it was a warrant from God. The letter said my back fence violated community character standards. It did not say that my fence sat entirely on my own land, that it matched the approved height to the inch, or that I had the survey to prove both. Brenda did not care about inches. She cared about the fact that I had said no to her 3 times in writing, and people like Brenda do not collect no's, they collect addresses. I read the letter twice, the way I read a patient's chart before I trust a single number on it, and handed it back. "This is wrong," I said, "and you know it's wrong, which is the part I find interesting." She told me I had 10 days to bring my property into compliance or the association would take corrective action. Then she walked back to her white SUV with the slow, satisfied gait of a woman who has never once been the smallest person in the room and intends to keep it that way. I am Daniel Reyes. Most people call me Doc, a name I earned hauling wounded men out of places I don't bring up at dinner. I spent the better part of a decade as a combat medic, 3 deployments, and now I run a civilian ambulance through the suburbs of Maricopa County, Arizona, where the worst thing I usually see is a teenager who tried to deadlift a couch. 2 things follow me home from that work and never leave. The first is that I document everything, out loud, by reflex, time, scene, condition, because in my world a thing that isn't recorded didn't happen and might get you sued or buried. The second is that I do not throw the first punch, the second punch, or any punch, because I have spent my whole adult life watching how fast a man's situation gets worse the instant he gives someone else a reason. So I didn't yell. I went to the hardware store. That afternoon I mounted 2 new cameras on the back corners of the house, the kind that runs faces against a watch list and timestamps everything to the second. And I charged the chest camera I keep for liability the way other men charge their phones. If Brenda wanted corrective action, she was going to star in it. She lasted 11 days. On the 12th, a truck I didn't recognize rolled up to my back gate. No county seal, no contractor placard, just a magnetic sign that read Apex Compliance Solutions, in a font that looked like it had been chosen by someone who'd given up. 4 men climbed out with sledges, a reciprocating saw, in the body language of people who have done this before and never once gotten a phone call about it afterward. I walked out, clipped the chest cam on, and felt that old, flat calm settle over me, the one that used to arrive right before the shooting started. "Morning," I said. "I'm going to need to see a court order, a demolition permit, anything with a signature on it." The lead guy, heavy-set, sunburned, with a voice like a cement mixer, didn't even slow down. "We don't got paper, buddy. We were just sent here. We're the help. You got a problem? Take it up with the HOA. And there it was, the whole case, handed to me for free at 7 minutes past 9 in the morning, on 3 cameras and 1 chest cam, his exact words, his face, the time. I have learned over the years that the universe occasionally hands you a gift, and that the polite thing to do is to say nothing and accept it. They went at my fence. I stood 10 feet back, narrating quietly for the recording, the way I'd narrate a trauma call. No warrant presented, 4 subjects, no permits, while a 40-year-old man with a tax problem and a sledgehammer dismantled 8 months of my weekend work. I did not move to stop them. That was the entire strategy, and it cost me a fence. A fence is replaceable. A clean record is not, and the second I laid a hand on one of them, I'd be the one in cuffs. The headline would be, "Homeowner Assaults Workers," and Brenda would cry on the local news in a fresh visor. Then the gift got bigger. The lead guy, swinging carelessly, caught his forearm on a sheared bracket and opened himself up wrist to elbow, deep, the kind of bleeder that turns a tough guy pale in about 4 seconds. He swore and clamped it, and the color started leaving his face. And here's the thing about a decade of muscle memory. It does not ask your permission. I was on him before I decided to be, kneeling, glove already on, talking him down. "Look at me, you're fine, sit, pressure here." Wrapping the arm while he breathed through it. For about 90 seconds, I was 18 inches from his face in full daylight with a chest camera rolling, capturing the cleanest, most well-lit portrait of a stranger I have ever taken in my life. He thanked me. I told him to keep it elevated and get a tetanus shot. They packed up and left, and as the truck pulled out, the lead guy actually grinned and said, "That's how we do it out here, Doc." He'd read my name off the patch on my old jacket. Nice touch. The sheriff's deputy who showed up an hour later was a good kid and completely useless. He looked at the splintered fence, looked at my 3 cameras, and reached for the phrase every one of them reaches for. "This is really a civil matter, sir. Property dispute with your HOA. You'll want to talk to a lawyer." I told him a crew of unidentified men had destroyed my property with no court order and that I had it all on video, including one of them saying the HOA sent them. He wrote it down with the enthusiasm of a man filling out his own parking ticket and gave me a case number. I thanked him because he wasn't the problem and decided that if the system was going to move at the speed of paperwork, I would simply get there first. Apex-compliant solutions did not exist in any way that mattered. No contractor's license on file with the state registrar. And in Arizona, demolition without one is its own crime before you even get to whose fence it was. The business address traced to a vacant unit in a strip mall in Mesa. The phone number went to a voicemail that was full. Whoever Brenda's treasurer had hired, he'd hired them because they were cheap and didn't ask questions, which is the exact profile of people you should be asking the most questions about. So I pulled the best frame off the chest cam, the lead guy's face, lit like a passport photo, courtesy of my own training, and I started running it the way anyone can, through the public stuff. County sheriff's most wanted galleries, state bulletins, the kind of pages you scroll past until the day you're looking for one specific sunburned face. I found him on the 3rd county over. Different name than the one he grunted at me, but the same broad jaw, the same gap in the eyebrow, the same eyes. The local warrant was for contracting fraud, and following that thread, I hit the part that made me sit back in my chair. He'd skipped on the state case, and skipping had bumped it up the chain. There was an active federal warrant. He wasn't a handyman. He was a fugitive being chased by the United States Marshals, and a homeowners association in a gated retirement-adjacent subdivision had paid him in cash to come destroy a member's property in broad daylight. The dark comedy of it nearly took me out. A man wanted for pretending to be a contractor, hired to perform a fake act of legal enforcement. Brenda hadn't just broken the law. She'd outsourced it to a wanted criminal and gotten a volume discount. I did not call the board deputy back. I built a file the way I'd build a case for a medical board. Everything tabbed, time-stamped, sourced. The footage. The "we were just sent here" line, isolated and transcribed. The phantom company, the missing license, the dead address. The booking photo beside my own frame, the 2 faces lined up so a child could match them. And then I drove it to a detective in the financial crimes unit who actually returned calls. And I made sure the part about the federal warrant landed in front of someone who'd know to pick up the phone to the marshals. You learn, in my line of work, exactly who to hand a patient to. This was no different. Here is where Brenda did me the last favor. She had no idea any of this was happening, so she stayed exactly on brand. Emboldened by my silence, she'd mistaken it for surrender. The committee scheduled a second corrective visit, and they scheduled it to coincide with the monthly HOA meeting that gathers, by long tradition, right at the front gate, where Brenda likes an audience. She had personally told her treasurer to bring the same crew, finish the job. Which meant a federal fugitive was going to drive himself on a known date, at a known time, to a known location, in front of 40 witnesses and a board president who'd put it all in an email. I have planned extractions with less certainty than that. I gave the date and the place to the detective and let the professionals do their jobs. The morning of the meeting, I did not go down to the gate. I sat on my back step with coffee and watched it on my phone, because of course someone was live streaming the HOA meeting. The soul-crushing little dramas of Stonebridge Ranch are the only theater some of these folks have. Brenda was mid-speech about standards and the kind of element we don't tolerate, gesturing at the Apex truck as it rolled through the gate, when 2 unmarked sedans and a deputy's cruiser boxed it in. They took the lead guy out of the driver's seat without a fight, on camera, while Brenda's mouth kept moving for a few seconds on pure momentum before her brain caught up to her eyes. The element they didn't tolerate had arrived in her own hired truck. It came apart fast after that, the way these things do once the right people are finally holding the right paper. The "we were just sent here" line did exactly what I'd known it would the moment he said it. It ran a wire straight from a federal fugitive's wrecking job back to the board that dispatched him. The phantom company and the cash payments turned the treasurer's careful frugality into evidence of something a lot worse than cheapness. Brenda and her treasurer were charged in connection with the destruction. The rest of the board discovered an urgent collective need to resign and spend time with family. The association's insurer, reading the words "federal fugitive" and "unpermitted demolition" in the same incident report, reacted the way you'd expect, and the lawsuits from other residents who'd quietly eaten the same treatment for years started arriving like weather. My fence got rebuilt, taller and squarer than before, on the association's dime, by a contractor who showed me his license without being asked. I didn't say anything to Brenda. I never did, the whole way through. The afternoon they finished the new fence, I climbed up and mounted one more camera on the corner post, a better one this time, angled out toward the gate, and went back inside to make coffee. This is the channel author now, stepping out of Doc's shoes for a minute, because there are 3 things in this one worth pulling apart. First, where the board went wrong. Brenda's fatal mistake wasn't arrogance, it was skipping the courthouse. In Arizona, an HOA cannot simply send a crew to tear down a member's property. It has to go through a judge or the state real estate department. And the second they bypassed that, every swing of that sledge was criminal damage, not enforcement. Then she compounded it by hiring the cheapest enforcers available without a single background check, and by letting them say the one sentence that chained the crime back to her board. Cheap and unchecked is how you end up paying a wanted man to commit your felony for you. Second, the practical takeaways. Cameras win cases, not your temper. Doc never touched anyone, and that restraint is the only reason he stayed the victim instead of becoming the defendant. Know your actual rights. An HOA's authority ends where due process begins. And when a deputy says, "civil matter," that's not a verdict. It's an invitation to do the homework yourself, because public records solve this, not a lawyer's retainer. Third, a question for you. If a crew with no paperwork showed up to destroy something you owned, could you keep your hands in your pockets and let the cameras do the fighting? Or would you have given them the assault charge they were practically begging for? Tell me down below. I genuinely want to know how many of you could hold that line.